But one thing I've noticed, and I'd love to get your idea, or if you've experienced this or anything, but I find sometimes with networking, especially if I have had a fairly busy day or just for whatever reason, there are times where I just don't feel like talking. And there's times I'm just quite happy to just sit and listen, but I don't necessarily want to be talking or want to be sharing anything. So is this me being antisocial? Because I always thought I was antisocial and rude because that's how I was brought up. Stop being so antisocial, stop being so rude. I've taught you better manners than this. This is how I was brought up, and this is what, I just thought I was rude and, like I said, antisocial, not realizing actually I'm introverted and we like to just have our quiet moments. So I sometimes sit there and I'm thinking, I really don't feel like talking. I don't feel like being part of this. Maybe I shouldn't have joined the meeting to start with, but you made a commitment. So you turn up. And then I just think, am I okay being antisocial and just keeping quiet? Or, it's like take that deep breath and just dig in for that last little bit of energy and then, almost put on an energetic hat and think, okay, let me do this. I can do this. How do you feel if you ever come across situations like that? What do you do?
So you've raised quite a few things in that one little segment there, about, first of all, belief that, it's being antisocial. The way that I term that, it's about being very thoughtful and very consciously aware of what other people are saying. So when they've finished doing their blah 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 blah, I'll often come about with, and what Jeanette said there was, very appropriate because of X, Y, and Z, and Jim talked about da 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 da. So I kind of tie the whole thing together and then just let them know that I've been intently listening to what they've been saying. And I sometimes use their language patterns as well to let them know that I get them. So they're talking about the big vision or anything else like this, and I'm just listening intently to what they're saying and how they're behaving and whatever else. So that's the first thing about what you just came up with there about being antisocial. I don't view it as being that. I view it as being intently aware of what they're saying.
I
Um,
like that. I'm gonna take that from now on. Is when I'm thinking about, how my mother always told me I was being antisocial. I'll just think, no, actually, I was being purposefully intentful.
Perfect, isn't it? And and again, I've heard that. I actually had I think my first my annual report in the Royal Air Force after I graduated from training. My first report, I think, was contained the words, Holcroft is an aloof character, and doesn't socialise particularly well. And he gave me an example of how in a massive group conversation in a taverna in Cyprus, he said, and people were talking about things, and then somebody said, "How's your car getting on?" And I said, "Oh, I changed it over 3 months ago." And he said, "That proves you're antisocial." What? So I've had it for a long time now, where people have said, for me, it's about just that intense concentration that extroverts don't have. They don't have the skill of listening to everything like that, and they often miss things. So I often, I drop something in conversation with an extrovert to say, "Do you remember a few months ago you said blah blah blah?" And they go, "No, it wasn't me." Well, funnily enough, I've got a note here that on my piece of paper in that last meeting we had, you said that. Oh, did I? And and then they suddenly start to listen, and it's quite a again that's quite a skill I think that introverts possess. That is something that extroverts just because a general trait of an extrovert is to be in the moment and reactive to the situation without processing too deeply and therefore putting it into the random access memory. And so that's one of the key things that we have. The other thing you talked about there was when you don't feel like contributing. Um, it depends on the message you've got for people. So if for example, as a confidence coach, you're talking about training introverts to be confident, it's probably not an appropriate thing to talk about that with a group of extroverts. So therefore, to keep your powder dry in that respect, in that situation, is quite an allowable thing. And sometimes, yes, you're absolutely right. You can be there for a conversation that's taken part away from you, but actually there is no actual requirement to join in. I do I do sometimes just switch my microphone off sometimes, and then switch the camera off, and then they'll go, "Stuart, you still there?" Oh yes, hang on, just unmute myself. Or in a live thing, I'll just sort of move just subtly in front of them or whatever. But yeah, I do find that a lot of people in networking environments don't necessarily have the emotional connection to people to say, it's time for you to talk. And I had one this morning at about 11 o'clock, and there was this one person that came into the group and just went blah 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 blah, and me, and I. And I thought, yeah, okay. And then after about a good 10 minutes, somebody then said, oh, you want to speak to Stuart about what he does? And I said, what is it you do? I said, I've got these amazing things that help people's brains to calm down. She went, I need that. And
so you actually are with your products and what you do, you actually suit it to be in a room full of extroverts because you can help their brains to just slow down a minute. But as a little introvert in you thinking, oh my word, I don't want to be in this room with all this going on.